guys, welcome to the very last episode of the charity quilt for 2021. It's called Serendipity, and today we're going to work on the backing. And I'm very thankful to everyone for donating all of the money that goes directly to Make-A-Wish. We do currently have 5 quilts for auction on eBay, so you can check those out in the link below, and all that money goes directly to Make-A-Wish. So this is kind of the front of the quilt, and I do, when I send it to the quilter, I have it nice and pressed, and I usually fold it like really nice to go to the quilter. So this is how I will send it to Gina. I'm going to send it to Gina Tell, and she's going to quilt it just like the one that's behind me, so that the thread, I don't want the thread to be too strong. So this is the top, and when you send it to your quilter, if you keep it nice and flat, it will help them get it onto their machine quicker. And then for the backing, we'll talk a little bit about the backing first. So what we did is we did a pieced backing where this is in the center of the back so that you have a fun back. And then when you assemble it, we have it where you assemble it this way because cutting it this way saves about 1 yard of fabric, so it saves you money. If you wanted to buy a big piece here, you could. It just will add to the cost of your quilt. But one of the things that we've talked about over the years is putting a quilt block in the back of your quilt. So this is exactly what I do. I just piece a block and then add to the sides and the top and the bottom. Of course, you could add stripes. You could do all the way across. There's lots of things you can do, but we really wanted to put this as part of the program so that you could try it, and if it's something you like, you can incorporate it into your normal quilts. So what I did here is I've already pieced this backing. So I've already pieced this because that would have been way too much to do on camera, and I think all of you guys definitely can do it. But what I wanted to show you was I like to incorporate one of the Sweetwater labels into my quilt. So to do that, what I figured out is fabric G, which is the same as here, and that's why we put the diagrams with all the letters so that it's easy. So I knew that G was here. So I just pieced a strip that ended up being 2 by 18.5. So this is 2 by 18.5. Now at the top, it's just a plain strip. So I basically just made this 2 by 18.5 so we could just piece it in and then my name is there. Now what I do with this is I usually put that with a piece of fabric on the back so the stickiness is gone, but I ended up forgetting this time, so it's a little bit sticky here. So now what I'm going to do is show you how to cut your backing, and some of these tips will be helpful for you when you are just cutting big chunks of fabric. I am going to be sewing today with the color 2000, and the reason I'm using 2000 instead of the 2600 is now I've got a fabric that's not really dark, and so with anything this like this, I'll use kind of a cream thread. So anytime I'm looking at a pattern, whether it's this pattern, someone else's pattern, anything, I do try to figure out in my head how I'm going to cut this. And so I've already looked at it, and I've got 4 pieces that are 25 by 37, and those are going to go right here. And the reason we do these diagrams with all the letters is so that you can easily see where those go. And then my R's go here. And because these are all under 40 inches, so this is 37 and this is 35, I'm just going to cut across the width, this measurement. Now, if you were unsure, what you could do is just draw a diagram and just sit and think about it before you cut. So I need 4 that are 20. I'm going to just cut 25 across, and I'm not going to worry about that 37. So from the front camera, I'm going to show you what I did before we started. when you're working with a big piece of fabric, it's really important that you just iron it all. So we have this all ironed. I have my selvages lined up. I have my fold lined up, and it's 100% ironed. And now from the top camera, let's see, I'm going to make sure the folds right here are on top of each other so that when we cut, everything is nice and straight. Now over here, I'm just going to kind of realign. And I need 4 that are 25 inches wide. We'll worry about cutting those down later. So to make it easiest, and when you're cutting big pieces like this that are for backing, you can use the lines on your mat rather than your ruler. So I'm going to cut at the 25 right here. And then I'm going to turn this around and trim it at the 25. And it's the backing, so it doesn't have to be as precise. So you can see right here, this is kind of came off, but it's not going to be a big deal. So I'm going to move this and just keep it nice and kind of flat. But I think the biggest thing when working with backing fabrics is to make sure everything is pressed before you start. And then this will be 25. Let's keep it nice and flat. And then it says to cut 2 26 3/4 by 35. So this, I'm just going to put this on the line. And then cut at 26 3/4. And then we have some extra that I'll just save for a pillowcase or another project. Now, when I did this, I did starch all of this fabric before. And the way I did it was just put it on an ironing board, starched, and just moved the fabric. Starched, moved the fabric, turned it over, and then I have a really large, like a clothes dryer that's really wide. And then once I'm done, I lay it across the top and then let it drag down. And then let it sit a couple hours and then flip it over, and it will eventually dry. It will eventually dry. So from here, these two need to be 35.5. So what I'm going to do here is keep them together, right sides together, and then kind of do this so that it's like kind of together. And it's the backing, so it doesn't have to be exact. And then just fold it over and trim here just to get the selvage off. And then this needs to be 35.5, which will be easy to do because I've got it all folded. And my ruler or my mat goes to 36, so perfect. So right here, 35.5. And then here, this you can just save for scraps. So these are going to be the ones that go to the side of my label that I've made. So I'm going to move those. And then these need to be 37.25. So I'm going to do the same thing. Right sides together for 2 of them. And then just, my goal is to kind of just keep the fabric all together. And since it's ironed, it will, and starched, it's going to stay together pretty good. So from here, cut my selvage off, and then this one's 37.25. which will be off of my mat because my mat goes to 36. I'm going to show you how to make it work. And just make it nice and flat. Okay, so here is 36. So I'm just going to keep my finger on that. And I need about 1.25 inches from that. So just move it down to here and measure like 1.25 inches from where your finger was. Because it's the backing, you just need to be in the general area. You don't have to be exact. And then I'd like to keep it just nice and together and put it to the side. Do the same thing on the other one and just keep your stacks together. But on the back, you don't always have to starch. Now I try to. Now it will shrink differently than the front. So the general rule is if you starch the front, you should starch the back. But I'm going to be honest and tell you that if I don't have time, I just don't. So kind of depends where I'm at on my time. I tend to not wash my quilts as much as other people, so I don't worry about it as much. So do the same thing, 37.25. Just need to be about 1.25 from that. So on this, if you didn't want to, you wouldn't have to. If you wanted to just give the quilter a ton, you could. I do think it's important when you send your quilt to your quilter that you have it nice, the back ironed. So from here, this right here is, let's see, 35.5, which is what this should be. So what I'll do is unfold this one, and I'm going to do one at a time. And we're going to attach this. So I'll move this one to the side. Now before I do this, I'm going to go off to the side and get this wrinkle out so that I don't have to do it later. And I'll be right back. And then here, what I'm going to do is line those up. So right there, and we're going to pin. Now when you're piecing a back, if you're not doing a quilt block or something like that, they say to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance instead of a 1/4 inch. But I prefer to use 1/4 inch because that's what I didn't know any different, and that's what I've always done. And let's see, Sammy is asking, was there enough light blue fabric in the backing to create a solid fabric backing? So the backing fabric requirements are not listed with the quilt top instructions, so you would need to buy extra. Does this backing include enough fabric to give extra width for the long arm quilter? Yes, so we're piecing this backing so that it becomes 5 inches around, bigger on all sides, so it gives it 10 inches. So all of our patterns, when we write them, account for what you need to give the quilter. That's already been figured in. And this will actually go to Gina today. I always struggle with cutting backing, which is I like wide backings. I'm only 4'11" with short arms. Kimberly, this is helpful. I've never used a mat to measure. Brilliant. Well, I do like the 108 inch wide, and I will say that over the years, the quality of 108 inch has really improved, which makes it super easy and nice if you want to do that. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to just stitch with a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so I think I've got it in the right spot. Okay, and so the biggest thing here is when you're sewing, the weight of this is what's going to get you, and it's going to make your seam stretch. So what I like to do is put as much weight on the table as I can so that it's not dragging down here. And I'm just going to do 1/4 inch seam. And I use whatever seam allowance you use on the front, I'm going to use on the back. And I did switch from a 2600 to 2000. And you can see I've kind of got the weight under here so it's not dragging. Now, if I'm at home, that would be my lap, because you don't want it to pull from the bottom to the top. So just kind of readjust. And there I did do a back stitch. You don't have to. Sometimes I do that on my backings and my borders. So from here, I'm going to add the other side before I press. And just do the same thing. Now I'm going to go off camera and iron this out so I don't have to do it on camera. And I'm using a camera on the an ironing board off to the side. It's a little too big for the table. So the same thing, you just pin all the way across. Now if you didn't pin here, what would happen is when you got to your machine, it might not end up exactly the way you need it to. So you definitely need a pin here. And I do pin my backings when I put them together, even though you can get away with not doing that. Unless, I will say, unless I am just like super out of time. And I just, when you're pinning, you want to never see the fabric below it. And when you turn it over, you don't want to see the fabric on the other side. That's your goal when you pin. And this fabric is kind of like a multi-fabric. It's not directional, so you don't have to worry about which way it goes, which is what I do try to, anytime I'm doing a backing, I do try to avoid directional fabrics. A lot of people don't do that, but I just prefer to avoid directional fabrics. And just pin across. There's Piggy's hair. I see Piggy's hair. My dog's dog hair. And then do the same thing. We'll just, now you're going to have more weight because you've got this side on there. So I'm just going to try to keep that weight off as I'm stitching. And thank you to Valeria Bauer from Piggy. She says she's missed everybody. So thank you. And this time I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to try to do it like I do at home. And when I go at home, I go just as fast as I'm about to go. So I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to sew. So it's all done. And now we're going to iron this. It's going to be kind of hard to do, but we're going to try. And we're going to try with this board. And I'm going to move this kind of out of the way so I don't knock stuff over. So now right here, my foot, I need to order that new foot from Primitive Gatherings because this foot keeps doing this to my fabric. So I'm gonna just trim this. This doesn't usually happen at home, but I think it happens here because I'm standing up and that foot's not as good. Okay, so here, before I press to one side, I want to get this nice and flat to set your seam. Now, the key to this, when you're doing this, is this back. If it's crumpled up and you iron, you're gonna put creases. So you want this to be nice and flat. So, flat. And then my iron's gotta warm up a little bit. It went to sleep. Let's see. Did Kimberly get all of the projects she talked about on Friday pieced? I did. I worked all weekend and everything is pieced. The only thing I didn't get done is Lori's backing, but I'm going to her house on Friday and she's going to help me put together where to put everything. I'm going to piece the top and then come back and I'll already have the backing done. But yeah, I got a lot done. And if you want to check out a video with me and Lori, it will be on Lori's channel on Friday. It won't be live. It'll just be a pre-recorded. How do I like the Little House pins? I love them. I have switched all my pins to the Little House pins. And we did sell out, but we'll have more in August. I just had to let the iron. And then someone is asking if I press my seams open on the back. I don't, and I actually never do, and you're supposed to. What you're supposed to do is 1/2 inch seams and press open, but I have never done that. And I apologize, the camera keeps going in and out of focus. Let's see. So now that I have it flat, I'll go to this and just, let's see, do this. Kind of get it going towards the blue. And then press right in that seam. Thank you, Rami. She says our customer service rocks and the free patterns are amazing. Thank you. Good morning from Colorado. You are awesome. Keep the good work going. I've learned so much from you. Thank you. And so my goal here with this channel is just to show you what I do at home and, you know, hopefully you can learn something from it. Now here I'm going to look on the back. I could tell that something was not feeling right, so I'm going to press that flat. What foot? Okay, so there's a 1/4 inch foot from Primitive Gatherings that she sells that I like better, and we just need to order it. What is the name of the ironing pad? It is from Steady Betty. And then just fold this over. And the Steady Betty, it's not cotton. I'm not exactly sure what it is, so it's a little bit of a different texture when you iron. But it was much bigger than our other ones, so we thought we would try it today. And then I'm just going to look at the back, make sure that I get all these nice and flat. And the reason some of these are coming up is it's a really big seam, so it's harder to get it than if you're just doing a single quilt block. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is kind of lay this out. And then, you know, just kind of lay it out like that, and then just get this big piece and lay it out. Oh, actually we have to piece these two together. Oh yeah, I have to piece two together. I forgot about that. So these two, let me see where I need to piece it together from though. Let's see, this would be the shorter seam, so that would be the 25-inch seam. So here, this is my 25-inch seam. And since I cut it together, guess what? It's going to be easy to pin it because it's all right here. So I'm going to sew this one and sew the other one together. And again, you could do a long, big piece. We just did this to save money, to keep the kit price down, since you've already put so much into that big block piece. So from here, just stitch. And then we'll do the same thing on this other one that's right here. And it looks like it moved a little bit, but just a little bit. Let me see. It looks like, let's see. Just kind of get it to line up. That one moved a little bit. And so you just pin. Now, of course, if you don't want to pin, you don't have to, because the back can be a little bit more forgiving because the pieces are bigger, but I feel like if I pin, I'm going to have less likely a chance that I would have to pull rip stitches out, I guess. So put this together. So from here, we'll do that same thing. We'll set the seam. And here, since it's wider than my thing, my like pad, if you just press here, you can press them all down at one time. Just don't press your crease. And that'll save you a little bit of time. And then here, most people would press open, but I just don't. I just always did it the other way. It always worked, so what's the point of changing? That's my philosophy. Okay, it looks like I have a little piece of dirt right here, so I'll get that with a Tide pin a little bit later. And then do the next piece, and I just kind of roll all my pieces up, just kind of keep them. Okay, so my iron, I just kind of keep them where they're not wrinkled up too much because I don't want to have to re-iron them. And my iron is set on cotton, linen cotton. Do the cutting dimensions need to change if you do 1/2 inch? I don't think so, because we gave you so much around the edge that your quilter would just have 9 inches around instead of 10, so it doesn't matter. And your backing doesn't have to be exactly 10 inches around. Is a 1/4 inch foot generic so it fits all machines? Yes and no. Some machines are high shank, some machines are low shank, and Bernina feet only fit Berninas. So that's something I would kind of talk to your, like when you buy your sewing machine, kind of talk to the people about it. And some of them, you know, like a Janome, you could switch with the Foth probably. I would just ask wherever you buy your machine. So here, when you're piecing, this does not have to line up perfectly, because this is all going to get, about that much is going to get cut off after it's quilted. So what I will do is like kind of take this and just put it down, and then I am going to pin, because it's so much easier if it's pinned. But like I said, this doesn't have to line up exactly. And when you get to the other side, it's probably not going to, and that doesn't matter. I like to just pin so that it'll go through my machine quicker. And I don't know, maybe, I think I like pinning. I think it's fun. This is where I really love my Juki, pedal to the metal on long seams. Absolutely. I sewed so much this weekend. It was nuts. But Emma she did say, Mom, do you ever not work? I'm like, yeah, not really. So. And then just, oh my goodness, it's gonna match at the end. So here you can see if it was pressed open, it would just lie flatter, but I mean, I don't care about the back. Nobody's gonna be able to tell that it's pressed one side. But that's all personal preference, and I believe you should do whatever you think is best for your quilt, your lifestyle. I probably would press open if I was taught that way, and I probably would do 1/2 inch seams if I knew better. But I did it so many years before I even knew. I think it must have been 10 or 15 years before I even knew I was doing it wrong. So at the end, you're gonna see it doesn't line up exactly, and that's because we measured on the mat, and it doesn't matter. When Gina gets this and she trims it down, some quilters will trim your stuff down, some won't. It's up to you what you ask them to do. So she'll trim mine. She trims mine down and she puts the binding on. And I actually love to do the binding. I just don't have time anymore, but I actually love to do it. So from here, I'm gonna keep that weight over here, if you can tell, and then just pedal to the metal. Okay. Okay, my machine just unthreaded, which at home it really doesn't ever unthread. Here it kind of does. I think it's because I sew air because I'm standing up. So let's see. I notice you pin on a slant. Is there a reason? I don't know. I just kind of learned that way, I guess. Just happened, but everything's fine. Something fell, but it's fine. Perfect. Now I'm gonna just add the other side. And then we'll iron it. I'm gonna iron it all at once on that small board to show you how to do it, and then I'm gonna show you how I package everything to give to my quilter with my binding. So then I'm just gonna do the same thing, and again, it's not directional. So, and you don't have to pin this, I guess, if you don't want to. I just don't wanna have to, like, if you're at the machine and you don't pin, you're gonna have to be adjusting a lot, and I don't wanna have to do that. I'm still having a little problem with points. Not all of them match. Is there a video for that? We did a beginner video series, and that would be great to watch because I talk about how to pin, how to cut accurately, and I think, you know, that comes with time and experience. And then let's see. And I'm just gonna kind of keep the bottom flat. Keep this flat. And I'm not having to line this up with anything, it just goes wherever. Thank you from Piggy to Ann Boswell. No one teaches as well as you do. Well, thank you. I try. I mean, I always am a little bit self-conscious because I don't always do things the way everybody else does, but I just like to show what I do. And Piggy also says thank you to Jody Murphy. Thank you for your instructional videos. I've learned so much and my quilting has definitely improved. Oh, good, awesome. And you see I'm just kind of getting it nice and flat. That's the key to backings and borders, keeping your work neat and nice and flat. What model Juki? So this one is a TL 2010-Q. I have that one at home, and I also have the Platinum Edition, which is exactly the same, except it comes with some more feet. And, but it's my favorite. That's what I use for everything. And the reason I like it is it goes super fast. I have a lot to do, so. But I'm one of those people, I do not believe you need a $10,000 or $2,000 sewing machine to sew. And these you can get for like $9.99, $8.99. So now it's all nice and flat. And so you can see from the front camera, like keeping it neat is the key to a backing. Because if you have it all messy and crumbled up and then you go try to sew, you're gonna sew through another portion of your quilt. Don't ask how I know, because I've done that before. So if you're in a hurry, sometimes you can. Now here I'm gonna kind of layer it, kind like that, like kind of layer it and then go through the machine. And this is my last seam on the Serendipity Charity 2021 quilt. Okay, so, and I'll answer questions in a second. I'm just gonna go real fast through the machine. It's easier if I go fast, because it's what I'm used to. And it just unthreaded again. It's funny, I sewed all day yesterday. I got up at 6:30, sewed all day, didn't unthread once. Come to work, it unthreads. Let's see. And you can see I'm kind of keeping all this over here. Nothing is hanging down over here. So there's no weight pulling. I've kept it to the side, which will really help when you're doing a backing. Okay, so I'm gonna adjust and then restart. I kind of got off a little bit. From that stack. I'm going to move the machine, and then you have a lot of backing here. This is where it can get frustrating. So if you're tired, my advice would be, if at this point you're super tired from doing all that, pushing through the machine, walk away, have a tea, have a snack, come back to this so that you don't get too frustrated ironing, because it does become very laborious. So I'll kind of move this and I'm going to show you how to iron. Now my ironing board at home is much bigger, but it's doable with this. Again, from the front camera, what I'm going to do again is kind of, this is the seam. I'm going to fold it into fourths along the seam. And then I'm going to set the seam all at once. So if you put this down, you can set the seam all the way across. Just don't iron this and this. Like, don't iron that crease down, because you'll create a crease in your back. Okay, so now I will unfold and press to one side. I like this backing. One of the hardest parts for me is picking the fabric, and always the backing fabric is so hard to pick. And I just pull it and press. We're going to do this on both sides. And then you can see I've got a little crease here. I'm going to try to get that out. I usually try to get those out before. I think I forgot on those too. And here, more bulk. Just, you don't want to iron and then have creases underneath. Sorry. Sorry. So here I'm going to flatten it. And just pull to the right. And there's this crease right here. I am going to get that out. I like everything to go to my quilter like super nice because I always send her a lot of quilts. And so the nicer I keep it, the more likely she's going to want to keep wanting to work with me. And there is a question about my Minecraft quilt and how I quilted it. Okay, so if you contact Mike at mylongarm.com, he quilted that one for me. So he will remember how I did it because I don't remember. And so then I'm going to do the same thing from the, let's see. Let me see if there's anything right here. See, I've got a little crease here. I'll get that out. Okay, now from the front camera, we'll do that same thing where we kind of, this is really big. And this does, it's very, it's an arm workout almost sometimes. This is my cardio. My cardio is quilting. I need a shirt that says that so that my friends can look at me like I'm crazy. Most of my friends don't even know what I do for a living, so. Okay. So I'm going to do that same thing where I get it nice and flat. If I don't do this part, I feel like when you push it over with all that weight, it's harder. And I'm going to take a sip of a drink of tea real quick. Okay. And then I'm going to press the same thing. Okay, so I answered that top question. Let's see, why don't you find the center of all three pieces so they will be even at the edges? Because at the end, it doesn't matter. That's gonna get cut off. So there's no reason to worry about that. I've never worried about that. That's just an extra step that you don't need. And here I'm just working it. It feels like this seam is not wanting to go flat, so. Let's see, Cindy says, since following Kimberly, I have tried to make my backings as lovely as my front. Aw, that's nice. I do love to do the backings, and often I have found the last couple of times I've finished a quilt, my backing is done before my front, because sometimes it's nice to take a break. Now, I'm gonna iron this little thing out too. I also appreciate Back Quarter Shop. I shop with you exclusively. Thank you. We do really try. Does Gina do my bindings by machine or hand? By hand. Now, I don't know if she offers that service to everybody. I don't know. I think she does it for me as a favor. I mean, I pay her, but I don't know that she does that for everybody. I'll have to call her and ask her so that I know the answer to that. Can all quilt backs come with instructions? So that's not something that's standard in the industry, so probably not. Now there's a little string there. I'm gonna get it out in a second. So this is just something special that we do at Fat Quarter Shop, and we show it every now and then, but definitely not something that all kits could come with, because this is just like a bonus type thing that we came up with. The biggest thing I would say about backings is just doing the math and hand writing it down on a piece of paper and like really writing it out before you cut. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is move this and I'm going to fold it up. Now, what I try to do when I'm folding my quilt, sorry, I gotta get that, okay, is I try to fold it really nice so that when the quilter gets it, you could fold it inside out if you wanted to. And I try to just have it really nice. Now, if you mail your quilt, I would suggest mailing it in a trash bag or a plastic bag. And the reason I say a trash bag is because everybody has a trash bag at home. Plastic bag, you could use one of the little leftover bags we send your fabric in, so that if it gets damaged in the mail, oh, that's a workout. Body's hurting. If it gets damaged in the mail, like if it goes through a sorting machine or something that has black on it, if it's got that trash bag, the trash bag will get black instead of that. And so from the top camera, you're gonna see I have this all ironed. I would never send a quilt to a quilter that is all wrinkled up. And if it was wrinkly now, I would take the time to stop and iron, but it's not, so I got lucky. And then I'm just gonna fold it up. And then I'll probably fold it like this. And then this is my top, and then here's my binding, and I've already starched it so that when she gets it, she doesn't have to do anything. So from here, I would just put this in a plastic bag, and then what you could do is either write a note to your quilter. The different type of things you could put is the thread color you would want, if you would like your custom quilting, or if you would like just an all-over print, what type of look you're going for, if you're going for modern or maybe contemporary or maybe traditional, or you could say I want Baptist fan. Tell them if you want it small or large, and then when they're done with your quilt, they can either give it to you where they trim it right on the edge, or they can give it to you untrimmed. So for binding, since she does my binding, I don't have to tell her anything, but if she wasn't gonna do my binding, I would request that mine come untrimmed, because when I do my binding, I do leave a little bit extra batting on the sides. And then thank you to everyone for all your donations. I'm gonna answer all the questions that you guys have. It would be great if a label could be purchased with these quilt-alongs. Yeah, I mean, we've done that on some of our designer mysteries, have come with them. It's kind of a harder thing to get produced than you would think. And I actually prefer to have like a piece backing with my name. But yeah, we can consider that. A backing is yardage by width of fabric. How do you work up how much you need and where to join? Literally just draw it out. Draw out like I actually showed last week where I drew one out. So if you watch Friday's live stream from last Friday, I show how I came up with one. So if my quilter needs 4 inches around, do you cut your backing larger or do you add leaders? I just do my backings 5 inches all the way around, and that's what I do. If you need it 4 inches, then you would just calculate it 4 inches, but I wouldn't trim it down. And I don't know anything about leaders. I've always been curious why backings aren't included in kits, because it is too expensive. And a lot of people are on a limited budget, and a lot of people will use some of the front for the back. Some people go to Target and buy sheets and put it on the back to save money. So it's just, it's gonna cost the same whether you buy it separately or not, but it's a way to offer people something more affordable. This is the binding that we used. I don't know the SKU off the top of my head. Is there a way to figure out how much more fabric you need if you want border's length of fabric? So what I do with that is I look in my book or my pattern, and if it says to cut like 4.5 by 90.5, or it says to piece those together 4.5 by 90.5, I will take 100.5, which is 90 plus 10, 90 plus 10 divided by 36, figure out what that is and order that by the yard. Hi Kimberly, can we talk you into the same format with 2022 Charity Quilt? I've learned so much from this year and really enjoy the hands-on instruction. We appreciate you. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do next year. We haven't fully decided. We did pick the fabric. I think you're going to love it. Kevin loves the fabric too, so it's always a good sign when both of us love it. It's a great designer. It might be the same designer as this year. Hint, hint. It's awesome. I do want to say thank you to our new members, and if you are a YouTube member, there is a coupon in the community tab for you to check out. Our new members for today are Sherry Root, Francie Green, Sharon Davis, Linda Mabry, and Marilyn Johnson. I hope this starts your week off right. I hope you have a great week, and I will see my YouTube members live with the members only tomorrow, and if not, I will see you on Friday. So have a great week.